Hello, welcome to Sharing Needles with Friends, episode 29.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, and what an awesome 29th episode.
Absolutely.
We got the very amazing, incredible Evan Weiss.
You may know him from such bands as Into It Over It,
There,
Pet Symmetry, and many more.
A billion more.
He is a very prolific gentleman.
He is, and he's a hard-working man, apparently, because he's in a lot of bands, he does a lot of production, he tours a lot.
I mean...
Somehow he found the time and the grace to have a little chat with us.
Yeah, and we were very excited to have him on the show. I know that a lot of our listeners are also likely big fans of his music.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get to dive deep into his head. Mm-hmm. Very deep.
Very deep.
I mean, this was maybe one of the most deep conversations. We got super philosophical.
Totally.
Oh, wait, we forgot to do that part.
Yeah, we did forget to do that.
Shit.
I know.
Forgot to ask him his favorite philosopher, and completely forgot.
And I forgot to ask him about tour stories.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
And what his influences are.
Oh, yeah. That's one that I was really excited to ask is, who are your influences? Because I think that it's one of those questions that probably never gets asked to
probably
any
no
musician.
one ever probably asks that question to
Both
any
of those
musician.
questions, I think, are very relevant. Who are your influences, and what tour stories do you have? I guarantee those are questions that get overlooked.
We'll have to remember those next time we talk to
God, we will.
an artist.
We will.
Well, let's go ahead and just get into the episode.
Yeah, because it's a good one. So here's Evan Weiss, and
Enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I mean, really, all I watch is the only show I still watch is South Park.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Dude, we appreciate you calling in and doing this with us, man.
Absolutely.
I know you're probably really busy.
I'm actually not. You caught me on that's why I suggested to do it today, because we had a couple shows last weekend and then we leave again on Wednesday, but on the in-between, there's just like basically nothing to do. I've been catching up on some work and packing some mail order and stuff, but really I've just been hanging out watching Rick Moranis movies. So
Dude, that's kind of the best thing to do
if
with your
downtime. If I could get paid to do that for a living, I'd watch Rick Moranis movies all day long.
I would too.
I'm not getting paid for Moranis movies. I'm just hanging out watching Rick Moranis movies.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I want a job where I get paid to do that. I wonder if it's out there anywhere.
A Rick Moranis job. Yeah.
He only did so many because he quit acting like right after Little Giants. I think that was like the last movie he had done.
Yeah, I forget. I heard him on a podcast. He went to take care of his kids and stuff.
Well, he said he'd made
shrunk them.
Yeah.
So he should.
Yeah, exactly.
He made enough money doing film that he decided that he didn't need to work anymore. Like
Yeah.
he made
Wow.
so he basically just does like theater stuff and then that's it. And he just kind of hangs out.
Yeah, I want to hang out with that dude.
I do too. I bet he'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
What exactly are we what are we talking about today?
Oh man, we're gonna
just grill you like tirelessly until you cry, hopefully.
Oh great.
Yeah.
Not really.
That shouldn't take
We're just gonna bullshit about music.
Yeah. Nothing that's gonna be super like hard to answer, and nothing that's gonna make you have to really think super deep.
Yeah.
Well, some of my favorite. So you're not going to be asking me any of my favorite interview questions, which are like, tell me a really funny story from tour, or
who are your influences?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we will try to refrain from any of those, and if we end up throwing one in there, you can say, "Listen, dudes,
Fuck off.
fuck you guys.
Don't do that.
I'm out."
no better. How long you been doing this podcast for?
We've done it since I guess December.
Yeah, we've
The
reached
end of December of last year.
50-something episodes finally.
Not bad.
It's pretty exciting. It's really
Yeah,
exciting.
it's been super fun, man.
Cool.
And we've gotten to talk to some really cool people, yourself included, and it's just been it's been a blast for us to get to talk to people that we enjoy the hell out of their music, and then we get to talk to them about their music. And honestly, we approach this in a way that we don't want it to come across as much as a regular interview, and more so as a conversation, as though we were all just kind of hanging out and, just bullshitting about random things. I mean,
that's way better. That's personally how I like to do it too.
Yeah.
So. Good.
Good, because that's what we're doing.
Because that's what's going down.
I'll tell you what, the only thing that's been like a pain about it is when we have to deal with like publicists and stuff like that, and like just getting a hold of people to get on here. So luckily you were really awesome and easily able to talk to.
I do love my publicist, but if you guys just hit me up and you want to talk about records for an hour, I can totally do that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't need to send a couple emails to get that done. I can just fucking say yeah, and then we can go move on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your musics that you're doing. So you're about to go on tour. Is this like a set tour with certain bands, or is it sort of going to be spread out with who you're playing with?
This is kind of a weird one. We got home in March. We did a full U.S. with The World Is and A Great Big Pile of Leaves.
Yeah. And
after that, we were kind of just home for a while. And we like that ended March 1st. March 1st was the last show. And then, There had played a couple shows, and Pet Symmetry had played a couple shows, but there hadn't been any touring at all. And, so we were discussing things, what we could do for the remainder of the summer. And then, and kind of trying to plan maybe some more long-term stuff. And then the Mineral Tour came up.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
So the Mineral Tour came up, and it was kind of like, well, shit, man, there's our whole fall.
Right.
And but we still wanted to do some stuff in the summer. So we got asked to do a couple shows with Brand New, which we agreed to do.
Oh, man, yeah.
And that was Friday and Saturday that we just had.
Yeah.
And then
how were those shows?
Oh, they were great. They were awesome. And Brand New were super cool. The first one was us, Kevin Devine, and Brand New, and we've known Kevin for a long time.
Dude, Kevin Devine, that is one dude that I saw him live, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
It was in like a small little tiny bar in Nashville that I saw him, and it was incredible.
Is that where you guys live now?
No, we live in Knoxville, actually. Me and a buddy had drove out there to see him one time, and it was great.
Yeah. We The Progress, my old band, had played with Kevin a bunch of times, and then we kind of re-met, maybe a couple years ago, and I brought up a bunch of those old stories, and he was blown away that we'd remember.
Yeah.
And then, the show yesterday was this band Dinosaur Pile Up, us and Brand New, which was in St. Louis.
Wow.
And but then then we kind of got asked to do a couple other shows, and we're like, oh well, let's just make a week out of it. And so we're doing a show with Braid and Pity Sex and Midwest, which is going to be on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then we're doing a headliner with Prawn and Somos in Bethlehem, and then a show with Kevin Devine on Saturday in Long Island. And then we kind of loop up to Providence, and then it's us, Prawn, and Somos for the rest of the way back to Chicago. So it's like a nice little 6-day trip. Something.
Man, that's awesome. And plus getting to play with some incredible bands.
Absolutely.
Like Pity Sex, they've become like one of my new favorite bands in the last 5 years, Those guys, I just love everything they've released so far.
Yeah, it's cool too that the shows are all, with different bands. Like every night's kind of like a different lineup, and it's which we don't get to do that very often. Usually it's like a package kind of thing, or it's the same show every day for a month. So it's
right. Yeah, it kind of breaks up, and it's exciting for you, for you also, because you get to see these bands every night, as opposed to, obviously when you tour with a band that you love, seeing them every night really isn't a bad deal at all. Yeah. But getting to mix it up and see so many different bands within one tour is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Especially just for like a quick trip too. So
yeah.
But then after that, we're home until the Mineral dates start.
Very nice. One question, that I was very intrigued to ask is between Into It Over It, There, and Pet Symmetry, you have a pretty wide range of output of music between those bands. As a songwriter, how do you kind of like? How do you prepare for that? How do you switch gears from project to project? Is that something that's easy for you that just comes naturally? Or is it an actual, flipping a switch?
Like turning it on and off?
Here we go.
I totally get what you mean. When Stay Ahead of the Weather was still more active, and and we were playing more often. And I was the primary songwriter for both of for Into It Over It and for Stay Ahead of the Weather. It was a lot harder. It was kind of like, you know, I would write, you know, a project to completion and be like, okay, that's the new Into It Over It record. Kind of just set it aside, be done with it, and then start working on new material that was strictly for Stay Ahead. Finish that, and then kind of move on to, you know, like I could only do one project at a time. Right. Really focus on many different things. What's cool about There and Pet Sematary is I'm not the primary music writer for those
collaboration.
Bands. So it's, you know, with Pet Sematary, it's Eric writing a majority of like the basic shells of the songs. Like he'll come in with a guitar part and be like, here's the song, you know, and then Marcus and I'll take it and kind of make it, you know, arrange it and make it a little cleaner and tighter and decide which parts stay and go. And it's the same with There. Matt Frank writes all of the guitar parts and then brings them to Mike and I, and we kind of organize it and put it together. So for me, I like doing those bands because it's more of a arranging kind of production side of things instead of a general songwriting or like original idea kind of thing. Whereas with Into It Over It, it's always just start from scratch, and then that's, you know, becomes what it becomes. But
absolutely, yeah.
That's the only way I'm able to space it out.
I can imagine it would get really, really tough because, I mean, it's, you know, juggling that much stuff. I mean, in your head, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I have
a hard enough time writing my own songs at my house.
I've been in multiple bands at one time, and it, after a while, took a little bit of a, you know, you start feeling it like, oh man, everyone's depending on me to do this or that, you know, and so it's better when you're able to kind of distribute it, you know, amongst the bands and have other writing partners to be able to help out with that.
To be fair, I've been pretty lazy about the not lazy, but I haven't really gotten as much work done as I should on the Pet Sematary record, which the music for that has been recorded for over almost a year.
Oh,
we recorded the music for the Pet Sematary LP last August, and I still haven't sang on it.
Oh wow! Do you have everything, all of your lyrics written and everything, just ready to go?
Not at all. I've been I've been such a schlub about it. I've really been putting it off, and other things have been coming up and like taking up my time. And Pet Sematary hasn't had like, you know, shows or tours or anything to look forward to, so there hasn't been like a reason to get it done.
Yeah.
And because I've been like trying to work on stuff and haven't been happy with it, I didn't want to rush it and have it be not as awesome as it should be.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to like force something.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah. So that's been, so like, you know, Marcus and Eric every few days will hit me up and they'll be like, hey, so you ready to go yet? And I have to keep letting it down.
How much like producing have you been doing lately? Have you been doing any more since the You Blew It?
Well, the You Blew It record was about a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
It was because we were, I think we finished the record right around July 4th.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So in the year that I've been producing records, I've done 4.
Oh, wow. Who else have you done?
Did the You Blew It record, and then I did the Xerxes LP.
Yeah.
Then I did the Jazz June record. And then I just finished the new Annabelle record maybe a week ago.
Oh, Annabelle. Okay. I think some of our buddies know some of the guys in Annabelle. They talk very highly of them.
If you've ever played the Cling Thing House in Akron, Ohio, that's all of those guys.
Oh, really?
Oh, nice.
We got some buddies in a band called Game Night. I think are pretty good friends with those dudes. So
cool.
Yeah, they talk a lot about them. How was working with Mr. Tanner on the album? We had him on not too long ago. He was really fun.
You Blew It's a treat, man. They were. I mean, it was Matt who engineered the record with me. So he was engineering and I was doing the production, and it was really our first time doing that.
Yeah.
And so we kind of knew what we wanted to do and knew how we wanted to do it, but we were really hoping that You Blew It was just going to be super on board for whatever we suggested.
Yeah.
And they were super on board for whatever we suggested, which was really, really cool that they were so open and trusted us so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially for Tanner, because I think he mentioned that he begged you guys to let him use auto-tune on his vocals, and you said, nah.
No. I don't think he actually did. I think he was surprised that we didn't want to.
Oh.
Yeah. What's cool about Keep Doing What You're Doing is there's no editing on it at all.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
The record's actually, that's them, just, there's no, like, drum editing, there's no guitar editing, there's no Everything about it is like actually what they played and the tones that we actually got, which was
as it should be.
Yeah, that's hard to find these days.
And I think that was a big part. What was interesting was I just had gotten off of recording Intersections literally right before that. Like we finished doing Intersections, and then the You Blew It record started like a week later.
Oh wow!
And it's the same with Intersections too. Is that there's no editing, there's no anything. Like everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. Like all the parts were real. We got all the effects the right way, and and if you're listening to that record with headphones, there's a ton of fucking shit going on.
Oh, there is.
Yeah,
yeah,
a lot.
That record, by the way, is absolutely fantastic. It's
much
incredible.
So learning all these lessons from Brian Deck, which was the first time I'd really done that, because on earlier Into It Over recordings, there is editing on a lot of them, and maybe not so much with 52 Weeks, but definitely with like maybe some of the 12 Town stuff and OG Split. So like going into doing the You Blew It record was like, well, I know that these guys can play. I know that they can sing. Mm-hmm. I know that they can do it. And we had enough time. We had 2 weeks to do the record. So it was kind of like, if they are able to play it and it's able to be awesome, then we should do it the right way.
Absolutely.
And I think it helped. And honestly, like I know it seemed weird that they showed up and they didn't have a bass player with them, but I think it really helped that I was able to just go and bang it out based off the demos. And
right. Yeah, that's awesome. That brings me to wanting to know about the Intersections album. How was it working with Brian Deck? Where was that at? Soma?
We did it. We did it at Soma, which is John from Tortoise's studio.
Yeah,
which was cool because Tortoise wasn't on tour, so we had complete access to every piece of Tortoise's gear.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! Jeez.
But so working with Brian was a unique experience. I have never worked with anybody quite like him, and he'd never worked with anybody quite like me. And I think that's why we kind of thought it was going to be a really excellent, interesting collaboration.
Yeah.
You know, a record that he'd never really made, and we could make a record that I'd never really made. And,
right.
And for me personally, I know maybe a lot of people want to, make the record that people maybe expect, or like, they want to kind of play it safe, or but that's, to me, isn't fun. I'd rather make the record that I am kind of uncomfortable making, where I feel like I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone, where I feel like I have to try some new things that I don't want to try, or like if I just kept making the same record over and over again, that wouldn't be cool.
Right.
Like I want to do something different, so working with Brian was perfect for that. His ideas were really, like, my instincts were not the same as his, and his weren't the same as mine. So collaborating together on different ideas or talking about different parts the way we would, it really made for these overall super cool outcomes that I don't think either of us would have thought about on our own. So
that's incredible.
I think Brian Deck has sort of become the spirit animal of this show. There's been like 3 or 4 podcasts we've done lately that his name ends up getting mentioned on, just because we talked about the Moon in Antarctica one time, and of course he recorded that, and then we talked about the Red Meat a couple podcasts ago, and his name came up in that. So he must have his hand in a lot of good things.
Absolutely. So you were talking about being able to use, you kind of had a lot of gear at your disposal. What is one thing that might, in your arsenal of equipment, whether it's pedals or anything, what would you say is your favorite piece that you couldn't play or record without? Do you have like a something that everything revolves around? Is there anything that you...
I don't know if there's something that everything revolves around, but when we were making Proper, we Nick and I went down, Nick and Kate went down to Kansas. We went to Black Lodge, which was Ed Rose's old studio, and we did the record there, and he had this little combo as a 112 little tube combo. It's called a Gibson Skylark. And the Skylark became the all-star of that studio session. There's sections on that record where all of the guitars recorded just through this little amp, and it had this little onboard tremolo that was really good. And then there were a couple songs where we ran the vocals through it. There was a couple songs where we ran the keyboard through it. And I was like, man, this amp is great. This is like this little fucking combo, like 15 watt, 20 watt combo amp. It's like, this is like the coolest little amp. And so we go to start doing Intersections, and I walk into Soma, and there's another one just sitting on the ground at Soma, like a fucking little Gibson Skylark, like the best little amp, and I'm raving to Brian, like, man, this amp was like the all-star of the last record. Like, let's, I wonder how much it's going to come into play in this record. And same with Intersections, man. It's all over that record. It's
That's
just
awesome.
Every like so many different spots. So then There goes to record Analog Weekend, and we go down to Black Lodge to do Analog Weekend. Ed's selling the studio, and with the studio, he's selling a lot of the gear inside of it, and I'm like, well, you're not selling the Skylark, are you? He goes, well, actually, I am, and he let me buy the Skylark.
Dude, that's
off
awesome.
of him at the one that's like all over property. Let me buy it off of him, and then I brought it back here, and it's been on. It was on the Xerxes record. It was on the Annabelle record. It was on. Yeah, we've used it on a bunch of things since then, and it just is this little amp sits in my house, and when I go to record bands, it always winds up being all over the record.
That's super incredible, and that's the thing about amps is, I mean, once you find a sound and once you find an amp that has the tone that you're looking for, it's really hard to readjust your expectations when you start, working with other gear. Because
that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I would use it for any other scenario. It's just I've used it in a few really clutch studio scenarios, and I know that it works for these few clutch studio scenarios. So when I get these ideas that are similar for either records of mine or for other bands' records, I know that that's the amp that's going to work.
Nice.
So I'm really glad that I got to buy one.
Absolutely.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
So are you doing this tour coming up? It's full band, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. How long have you been doing the full band as opposed to playing the solo shows? Because I know you did the solo shows for a while.
Solo shows went for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I still do them now. Like, I just went to California with Owls for a few days, and I was playing solo there. And,
oh, sweet.
And I'm looking to do a few more, after the Mineral tour. I want to do a couple more solo tours because I didn't really get to do Intersection solo at all this year whatsoever. But when full band went to Fest 2 years ago, that was with the Stay Ahead lineup. Mm-hmm. After that, it was kind of important for me to put together a band that would become like a full-time thing.
Yeah.
So even though the dudes from Stay Ahead couldn't tour full-time, I found 3 other dudes who were willing to do it. My friend Tim, who lives here in Chicago, who I've known forever, and then my friends Josh and Josh, who both played in a band called Former Thieves. Okay. And so when Former Thieves broke up, I called them up and was like, "Hey, come down. I got a gig for you." And so they've been the band for the last year.
That's awesome.
So, and this year has all been full band touring. So we went to Europe together. We did Saves the Day. We did the Headliner, and we're going to do the Mineral tour together. And then after that, I think I'm going to take a chill pill with the full band for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to kind of have the option, to be able to play depending on the tour and the settings of where you're going to be playing, because sometimes some shows really do call for something more intimate, and then obviously if you're playing with a bunch of bands such as like Brand New and Kevin Devine, his goddamn band. Yeah. You want your own, you kind of want to bring it, and
I want my own goddamn band.
Exactly. Exactly.
Why does he get all the goddamn bands?
Yeah. I think that's a really cool approach to do it because, I mean, as a fan and listener of music, it's also fun to see things in 2 different dynamics because you get to see 2 totally different, views of the same artist, which end up being completely different, which is such an incredible thing that, knowing that they can be done both ways and be pulled off flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, with the solo shows and the full band shows too, like the sets are completely different, the songs are completely different, so it's, it just makes for a cool vibe. And I mean, the show, it was funny too because I went for years doing solo shows, getting frustrated not having a band. And kind of getting like talked over and kind of disrespected. Maybe not disrespected, but just like you really have to work hard if you're playing solo, and after doing it for so long, kind of building this reputation of being a solo artist, and then switching to play with a band, having gone back to play a couple solo shows since then, the solo shows I played since then have all been great.
Yeah.
And like everybody's like actually excited to see the solo show or less weirded out by the fact that I would be playing solo. They know that what they're getting into. So the solo shows that I've done this year have made me want to keep doing it and have made me want to try to, put that back in the arsenal a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you've got a good way of like engaging the audience in between songs, so they really don't have a chance to get all chatty and stuff like that too. I think.
True. That is true.
took years of hard work, man.
I'd say so.
You gotta come out swinging.
Solo shows, I love playing solo shows, but I
They are
absolutely
nerve-wracking.
hate them at the same time, just because I hear every single word, every cough, everything that's going on in any dead space. It drives me
and it
insane.
can throw you off too if you're not ready. You know.
Oh yeah.
And then when I hear talking, I feel like they're talking about me. Like, man, this guy's really awful. I really hope he's done really soon. That's immediately what happens when I start hearing. First of all, I don't like hearing whispers. So then when I start hearing people whispering, I'm like, oh God, they hate it.
This is about me, isn't it?
This is absolutely me. Oh God.
It's really not that bad. I think I used to feel that way too, and then, I learned early on from touring with a bunch of hardcore bands and like heavier, louder punk bands and stuff that the only trick is to just go out and be yourself. And because they'll be able to tell if you're being disingenuine immediately, and then write you off if you are.
Yep.
So
Totally.
You just got to own it.
Man. So your lyrics, and I was listening to Intersections again today, and I mean it's actually a record that's been in really heavy rotation since it came out. One thing that I love about that record is your approach to storytelling and your lyrics. How, like, I know it's always different. Every writer has a different method, whether it's, music first and then lyrics, and then sometimes lyrics come first and you have tons of stuff scribbled out, and then you find music that it fits with. Is there, for the Into It Over It stuff, and especially that record, was there a certain formula that worked the best for that?
I mean, for all the Into It Over It songs, it's always music first.
Yeah.
So, Nick, who was the drummer on the last two records, him and I would get together. We'd kind of close ourselves off for a couple months and get together nearly every day and just play and work on the songs. And basically, we'd get the music so tightly wound and so specific that to write lyrics on top of it would be very almost easier, because we know where all the accents are. We know where all the drum fills are being played. Like, it's always the same every single time. So, and you notice that if you see the full band too, the way Josh plays the songs is exactly the way Nick wrote them. So, it's very specific. Like each drum fill goes along with what I sing, because what I'm singing, I'm actually writing to the drum fills, or I'm writing to the guitar part.
That's awesome.
I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's the only way that I've found in years of doing it where I feel really comfortable doing it. And there have been sections on the record that, and on Proper too, where I would write a vocal line before we would get together and start writing it, or I'd write a guitar part with a vocal line, and when Nick and I were writing it in the room, be like, here's the melody with the guitar part, so you know what to play to fit what I'm singing.
Yeah,
that's very, very few and far between.
Yeah.
Generally, I have just kind of a million things rushing through my head all at once. And if Nick and I are working on something, or if Josh and I are working on something, or if I was working on something with anybody really, and I had the idea somewhat in my head beforehand, I would know what parts would work and what parts wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that being said, I like playing around with those ideas instead of just settling on something right away, because you don't know what kind of weird idea you're going to come up with or find while you're just jamming on a riff. So
that's very true.
I think I also read somewhere about Intersections that you wrote it without using a pick at all. Is that correct?
The whole album on guitar is finger picked.
Oh wow!
What was the reasoning behind that, or was there one?
It was kind of like we'd written Proper, and the first song we wrote for Proper was Evening with Ramsey Byer, and when we wrote that, we kind of thought about it. We're like, oh well, this. Here's the first song. Let's try to write a record that suits this song, because it's the first one. So we're like, let's stylistically shoot for this feel over the course of the whole record.
Yeah.
And then we were writing Intersections. The first song we wrote was a pair of matching taxi rides. And it was kind of like, okay, well, this should be kind of the basis for what we do around the rest of the record. Like, how did we write this song? What were we thinking when we wrote it? Oh, well, I was finger picking the whole time. Okay, that was one thing. All right, well, and we really made it centric on the hi-hat and the ride crash. We weren't doing much of a crash cymbal on the song. It was mostly just ride and hat, snare, very, very like trap kit kind of approach.
Yeah.
We're like, let's take that same approach and try to apply it as much as we can amongst the rest of the record. And so when it came to write the rest of the songs, I was like, well, I'm just not going to use a pick for the rest of the record. And then guitar-wise, it'll sound the same throughout. Like it'll have this similar feel.
That's awesome. That I can't finger pick, so that for me would be fucking out. Like I would never be able to try that. But that's kind of incredible, and it explains a lot. I mean, because some of the guitar parts on Intersections are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm sure it like helped like
inspire the creativity of writing.
Well, that and just helped become like a better guitar player too.
That's true.
It seems like it would to me.
You nailed the main point. It was kind of like, I've done a lot of finger picking before, but I hadn't really tried to do it as a whole album. And also trying to write like aggressive songs and like really slow songs, all doing finger picking at the same time. Like that was kind of something I wanted to try because there aren't a lot of heavier. I don't think there's really any heavier Into It Over It songs that are based around finger picking. Yeah. And so did a song like Spatial Exploration, which is like a pretty loud song, have that all being finger was an exciting thing for me to try.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about vinyl, about some records. So you are a collector, correct?
I am.
In your years of touring, I'm guessing you're quite lucky enough to be able to stumble across a lot of record stores.
Yeah.
Do you get time here and there to get to stop in and shop? Do you make it a point to kind of do that while you're on tour?
I make time.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
What's
there? Japan, and that was first of all blew my mind is that there got to go to Japan. But so we go.
Awesome.
And I don't know if you guys will ever get the opportunity to go, or if you have gone before, and if you do get the opportunity to go, you must, because the record shopping there is out of this world.
Really?
Like why?
Buyers in Japan will go to America and they'll go to record fairs, record stores, all sorts of things. They'll buy up everything they can that's like rare, weird, exciting, bizarre, just whatever. Bring it back to the States or back to Japan and then sell it at a very small markup.
Oh, man.
Small, I mean very small.
Yeah.
So you'll go to a store like Disc Union, which in Tokyo there's, 4 or 5. And you could find records there that you've never even seen before for like $30-$50, which are back home. Like, you'd like, I'm trying to think of something that I bought while I was over there. I did buy a copy of, an original copy of Frog Stomp by Silverchair.
Oh, shit.
Man.
Not the reissue that,
SRC just put out.
You just did, but like the real one, like the actual, like, Australian vinyl pressing of it.
That's awesome.
Something like $70, which for some people, yeah. I mean, I loved that record growing up. So for me, it was kind of like,
no brainer.
I see this again ever in my entire life, but just a bunch of really weird hardcore stuff like that. I went to the hardcore Disc Union that was there, and they had an original Bad Brains Pay to Come.
Whoa!
In the 7-inch bin,
just in the bin.
Yeah, you're flipping through and it's like, oh, cool. And then you flip to that and it's like $2,300, which, or like, insane amount of money like that. I wasn't prepared to spend.
Right.
Right.
There, it's just sitting, with all the other 7, like dollar bin stuff and whatever. It's just
that is fucking stupid. That's crazy
insane.
Awesome.
Oh my God. So how... I know it's really tough sometimes unless you have it all written down or saved somewhere. But roughly, how many vinyl records do you have kicking around your house?
I'm sitting in the room now because I was talking to you guys and I figured we were going to talk about this, and so I wanted to get a better idea of looking at it. I have those IKEA Expedit shelves, right? So, how many do you think fit in one bin?
I think from what I've heard, 450 fit in a standard. Whatever the standard one is that they have, the most basic one.
Is that like a 4?
Yeah. No, actually, I guess would be I think that's the one.
It's a 4?
Yeah.
So I think it's like 75, like 50 to 75 LPs
per bin,
per like little hole.
Yeah.
So in the wall that's in our house right now, I'm looking at a 6 by 8.
Jesus.
So that's, I don't know, what's 6 times 8? 48? 48 bins.
Oh my God.
So like 48 times 70.
Oh man. That's
so like that. And then not counting the 7-inch boxes, which there's like 10, sitting above it.
That is amazing.
Jeez.
But I mean, I'm 30 years old, so this has been me doing this since I was 14, 15, and or like, maybe 13 years old. So I'm buying pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Long time. There was a dark period.
Yeah.
When Into It Over, it was kind of when I was starting to tour full time. I started to sell a good portion of my record collection because I couldn't afford to tour and pay my rent.
Yeah.
And so I sold about a quarter of it.
Man,
Then-
that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, it is. I have a hard time doing that with records that I just know that I won't even listen to. I
Yeah.
just can't get rid of it.
I spent the last four years trying to buy back all the stuff I sold.
Oh,
And
man.
certain records that I've owned multiple copies of, like Mineral's a great example. Like End Serenading, I think in my life I've owned 5 copies of that.
Oh, wow.
And sold them all?
And at one time or another come across like a really dark period and had to sell it.
Yeah.
So now I own one, and it's like I'm not selling it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been a common thing. I've finally gotten to a point in my life where I don't think I'll have to sell any of my records anymore.
Let's
Yeah.
hope
I do-
not.
Have like I will buy stuff if I have a double of it. Like if I own a record already and I know it's valuable and I see it in a store for next to nothing, I'll pick it up because
Oh,
I know
yeah.
it.
Oh,
know I can-
yeah.
Generally, they're only going to go up from there, hopefully.
Yeah. Like, do you seek out the first presses and stuff like that, or do you not mind buying represses? I know people are sort of picky about that sometimes.
I am a first press guy.
Yeah.
I definitely am not crazy about buying repress stuff unless it comes with like any sort of demo material, like the Codeine reissues I was really excited about, and
Yeah.
I just bought the new Slint reissue for
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I saw that the other day at the record store. I almost picked that up.
I really wanted to watch the DVD, and and I love the first issue of that record, but I'd be excited to hear a remaster because I always felt like the first version was a little quiet.
Yeah.
So
And I kind of have the same mentality. There's a bunch, maybe 2 or 3 records in my collection that I have multiple versions of because of that reason, because it came with something extra or it was remastered and I was really just curious to see, okay, remastering. Let's see what you did to these songs for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And usually, I mean, it's at least a good surprise, and then you've also got that variation, which
yeah, totally.
is awesome. As record collectors, I mean, if I had the money, I would own, some of my favorite records in every single, color variant that ever was released, just because I want it. I mean,
Yeah.
why not?
I think I only have a couple records where I have that. It's kind of something that I just like stumbled into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had friends who would release a record and they'd be like, "Oh, well, I'll trade you, this, and this for, our whole colorway of this record," or like, it's cool if you like, put records out on a label and then you get to go visit the label and then they,
Yeah.
Yeah.
"Oh, do you want anything?" And it's like, "Well,
Oh
yeah,
my
sure."
Well,
God.
shit. Of course I do.
Yeah.
Sure, like I would love to get one of each color of this thing that I like.
Yeah.
And you've basically, I mean, for as far as your own releases, you've basically only put those out on vinyl and digital, correct?
I mean, there's CD versions of everything. It's
Yeah.
just I've always the people that listen into it over it, I think, are the same as I am for the
Yeah.
most part. And with these days, with like being able to buy an LP where the artwork is more substantial, the look is way cooler, it's a more collectible thing, and then also comes with a download code. It's like, well, why not just
Exactly.
buy it instead of buying a CD?
Absolutely.
Which I've actually run into that problem. I've made the CD layouts for the last couple records even crazier than the vinyl layouts because I wanted to see if anybody would actually buy the CD. Like the proper CD layout is one of my favorite layouts ever made, but no one will know it because it's no one fucking CDs.
I really like the die cut that you did on Intersections on the sleeve.
Yeah, on the vinyl sleeve. It was hard to translate because we had the idea to do it, and then when you try to post that as a digital image,
Right.
it doesn't really convey exactly what it's supposed to look like, So that was the only problem I ran into with that. I don't know if I would do that again necessarily the same way, but
I also have both of the EPs that you've put out for There, and I really like the artwork for those too. What kind of photography did you use for the cover art on those?
for the first EP, that was a photo Ryan Russell shot that that we just really liked, and I think I had worked with Ryan for Into It Over It stuff, and Mike had worked with Ryan through Owen stuff, and Matt's just kind of along for the ride. We'd worked with them both so much before, and he posted this photo, and it just looked like something really cool that we would appreciate and thought would make for a really good art, like really good record cover. And we were also kind of just scrambling to figure out what was going to be on the cover. We needed the record out by record store day, and so there were all these deadlines to hit to get the record out on that day.
Yeah.
Like, well, shit, we got like 5 days to figure this out. What are we going to do? And Ryan Instagrams this photo that he's on a vacation, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool photo. Let's use that. And so I worked it out with Marky, our friend Marky, who actually laid out Intersections as well.
Yeah.
To do like the typeface and just like the basic layout stuff for that. So Ryan had shot the inside photo and the outside photo for the first EP. For the second EP, because the whole theme of the record was that it was an analog creation, that there was no computers used whatsoever for the entire process, we thought it was really important that the photos be analog as well.
Yeah.
So because we also recorded it at Black Lodge, and it was the last record ever made at Black Lodge,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it wound up being we did that EP, and then 2 days later, Ed Rose gave the keys to the new owners.
Oh shit.
We did it to tape the way he'd always intended it. So we wanted to use photos that were film photos, and if they could be somewhat centered around Black Lodge, that would be even better. So the photos that were used for that were shot on a lomography style camera that actually shoots 4 frames in 1 second. So it goes like click, 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 and it gets four different. It's like a pinwheel. And so
those light leaks that's one of my favorite things about that. I've got a lomography camera, and I love the unexpectedness of what's going to happen when you take the photos and just see, hopefully this turns out.
Yeah, really. So when we made Proper, Mitch Wojcik came down with us. He's my friend who shoots photography. He came with us to basically document the whole album process. And while he was there, he shot a bunch of film photos using that lomography camera. So I hit him up and was like, hey, do you have any of those old Black Lodge photos from when you were with us doing Proper? And he did, and they were all the film photos on the lomography camera.
Oh,
so
sweet.
the cover photo is actually from the drive down to Eudora, Kansas, and the inside photo is the outside of Black Lodge.
Oh, nice.
Man, awesome. And it's cool. It gives you that little insight. And
Yeah.
I'm sure when you see it, you have these memories of when you recorded this stuff, and it's just cool to throw in stuff like that.
Absolutely, because it attaches that image to the recording in the most perfect way, more so than just, I don't know, make a cover.
Yeah.
Take the name and make something that sounds like it would go with it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, for me as a, graphic designer, album art is one of my favorite things, period. And I see too many records that have really awful artwork. And it just, when I see something like this that I can tell there was, thought put into, and it's such a vibrant, beautiful photo, it kind of, it speaks for itself. It doesn't need a whole bunch of typography on top of it. You can make it stand on its own.
I mean, we've also wanted to, now that we did the first 2 layouts the way that we did, just the kind of the similar thing, like the framed photo in the back, just very plain. Like, I think that's going to be, we wanted the band to have a theme. We wanted it to have a visual presence to it that, was pretty uniform and pretty simple. I always loved it when bands would do that, and, that's what I loved about, old Sub Pop releases or old J-Tree releases where they had this kind of look about them that were, or like even like the older polyvinyl stuff, like the polyvinyl single stuff that, when you bought it and you had it in your hands, you knew what it was. Like you knew what,
Exactly.
where it was from. If you were holding it, that must be the new so-and-so record because it looks like this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got a brand just by its imagery.
Absolutely.
And and it's funny you say that about album artwork because that's definitely I think that's just as important as the songs.
I do. Me too.
A lot of people don't give it credit, but like with any Into It Over release, I've always made sure that the artwork is also just as interesting as the music that's on it.
Yeah, you want it to represent the sounds that are going to be on the album,
Mm-hmm.
And if there's been plenty of times that I've gone to the record store and be like, that artwork's cool as shit. I'm going to buy this record. I don't even know who it is. So
I've totally done that.
yeah.
Yeah, same here.
And sometimes you're very, very pleasantly surprised, and then there's been a couple times where I was like, man, they had a great designer.
Yeah.
There was that.
I mean, that's really how I got into a lot of the music that I got into as a young adult. Like, you hear one band you really like, and for me it was Sunny Day Real Estate. You hear one band that you really really like, and then you want to stalk out other bands that might sound like them.
Right.
And the best way to do that without even hearing them is to just be like, oh well, is the visual aspect the same? Like, is it the same vibe? Is it on the same label? Is it on the same, does it have a presence about it that's similar to what you liked about something else?
Yeah.
And that was huge for me, like finding out about so many other bands just because it looked like something I would like based on other things that I like.
Yeah. One of my favorites, and I don't know why, it's a very minimal album cover, but it was a record that I searched for a really long time, and I finally got it about 6 months ago. It was The Good Life's Blackout.
That's a great record.
I love that album cover for some reason. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it, really, but in my opinion, it's super beautiful. Just like Novena on a Nocturne,
Yeah, I
their
love
first
that
record.
artwork so much.
That artwork is so fantastic as well. And I mean, it's fairly simplistic, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love their idea with the album of the year artwork too, where it's the different images for every month, and I've always thought the Tim Kasher and like even with like the Cursive for Criteria stuff, like the associated bands all had really excellent visual presence to everything they put out.
I agree.
Yeah, Saddle Creek has done a really good job at keeping not just the sound but also the imagery to go along with it.
Yeah, because a lot of those Bright Eyes albums too. I mean, those are all great.
Yeah, totally.
Do you got any places you're going to be hitting up on this tour that you're excited about, as far as like record stores you know of in the cities and stuff like that?
Well, then we are we're playing in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is not too far from Allentown, Pennsylvania, which has Double Decker, which is one of my favorite record stores in the country. And then after that, we go to Providence, which will have Armageddon Shop, which is another one of my favorite stores, which is owned by Ben from Drop Dead.
Oh, okay.
And then Ann Arbor's got a pretty cool store. I forget the name of it, but I remember going there with Kate. We were on a vacation. We stopped by there and bought a couple records at the store in Ann Arbor. So probably check that out as well. I mean, my favorites in the country are. I really love Celebrated Summer in Maryland. I like Long in the Tooth in Philadelphia. I like Size in Oklahoma City. Size is actually probably one of my favorite stores in the United States. And then what are some other really great ones?
Grimies.
Grimies is all right. I've found a couple really good scores in Grimies one time. There's a new store in Gainesville, Florida called Arrow's Aim.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's fucking incredible.
Yeah,
I've gone there twice, and both times I think I've spent near $500. Like just gone and been like, wow, everything that I've ever wanted.
Yeah, one place.
There's another place in Gainesville too that I found that was really, really awesome. I can't remember the name of it though. It was like a little tiny, like on the corner of somewhere. It was sort of an open floor plan, but they had so much used vinyl of stuff that I couldn't believe was used there. It was ridiculous. I found a ton of Dinosaur Jr., a ton of Alkaline Trio.
That sounds like Arrow's Aim. The old store used to be Wayward Council, and that was kind of like a volunteer run shop that just kind of fell apart. I think a lot of the younger kids who were volunteering didn't care about it as much as the people did when I was really going there a lot, which is maybe like 1999, 2001. And so then when they decided it was time for a new store in Gainesville, a bunch of people, I guess, who were working at No Idea decided to open Arrow's Aim. And it's, they started the store by just selling their personal collections, which were, if you went in right around that time, it was like some of the gnarliest shit was in the store. But every time I've gone back, it's just fucking great. It's not very big. It's like, maybe the size of a, like a queen or king size bedroom, and maybe like 4 or 5 racks, like half of it's new, half of it's used, but the used stuff is just all killer.
Yeah, I loved it. And I had my son with me, and they gave him a button. Like he picked out he didn't pick it out because he was 1, but
He went right for the black flag button.
Yeah, this one. Totally a G.G. Allen button.
Murder Junkies button for the 1-year-old.
Yeah.
But no, man, I think that's all we got for you, man. I really appreciate you giving us some time and talking to us, dude.
Yeah, man. Any excuse to talk about this kind of stuff. This is my favorite stuff to talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, ours too. we started this thing just because we always sit out and bullshit about music anyways. We figured we might as well put a microphone and have some of our friends come in. So.
Yeah, exactly. What happens if we put microphones in and get other people that we like and respect to come on and talk with us? Oh man, let's do it.
Yeah.
It started as a joke, and then we ended up, well, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I hope it's been kicking ass.
It's been fun, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on because we knew you were a vinyl guy.
Yeah. It's good to talk to one of our own.
Exactly.
Every year, I mean, like every record store day is always a big deal. Every, like we were just in St. Louis yesterday, and the venue was. Have you guys been to St. Louis before?
Oh yeah, my parents actually used to live there.
Yeah, it was on. We played at the Pageant, which is in Delmar, like on you. And so Vintage Vinyl was 2 blocks away, and I was like, "We gotta go!" Just made everybody walk me down there.
Awesome.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's a really good spot.
Well, cool, dude. We're gonna jump off here, and we wish you the best of luck on tour, and we hope you have a really great time, man.
Cool, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
See you, Evan.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay, so that was it.
And there you have it. Fantastic interview.
He was a fantastic gentleman.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And I would like to have his amount of records in my collection.
Yeah.
Because doing the math in my head, I would say it's over 3,000, and that makes me feel
like 48,
extremely,
48 boxes of records.
Yeah, times like 70-ish.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine having a collection that big, which I aspire to have one day. But first, I think I'm going to need to come up with the money to be able to to invest
therein
in that.
lies the problem.
Right, absolutely. And also being able to go to as many record stores as he goes to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because, when you live in a town like we do.
I mean, you can only hit the same record stores up in a week.
So, yeah, exactly.
And you're going to see the same thing there.
Exactly. And it's not the same to order things online. Because obviously, I could hop on Amazon and buy every single record that I want.
Something about that organic, like, finding it at a shop and picking it up. It's so exciting to find something that you've been longing for at a record shop.
That's true. It's one of my favorite parts about collecting in general, because there's been many times where I've put a record out of mind because I thought I'm not going to get that record. I'm not going to find it. And then digging through, oh my God, look what I just found.
Yeah.
And there it is. And that is probably one of the best feelings ever.
It totally is.
I think we probably at this point need to take a trip to Japan.
I think we need to go to Tokyo.
Because that sounds very promising.
Yeah, it does.
So let's get tons of money.
Okay.
And then go there, buy a bunch of records.
See, I have a problem. I can't get tons of money.
Well, I can't either, but we'll figure that part out.
Yeah, that part will come.
I mean, whether it's robbing a bank, I've heard that's easy to do.
Yeah. We could always do
which
that.
I think that yields pretty good profit.
Yeah, sometimes.
Or jail.
Yeah.
And there's that, and I'm not cut out for jail. So
no,
maybe
you're too pretty, man.
maybe I'll just stick to what I know and make money the old-fashioned way.
By prostituting your body. That's the oldest profession.
It is the oldest profession, but I have a feeling that my weekly income might be about 50 cents.
Yeah.
And that's
not worth it,
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Well, are we going to play a song?
I think that we should absolutely play a song.
Okay, well, we're going to play a track from the Into It Over It album, Intersections, and I believe
Which is a fantastic record.
It is.
If you have not listened to this record, and if you're not extremely familiar with Into It Over It, first of all, his entire discography is great.
Yeah.
But this record in particular, as I even mentioned, I think, in the podcast when we were speaking to Evan, I listened to this record a lot.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, and again, even like he said, it's a good headphone listen. There's so much stuff going on that when you're listening on regular speakers, you can totally appreciate it.
Yeah.
100%. You'll still love the record.
Absolutely.
But the first time I listened to it through headphones, it was kind of a whole different experience for me. So hopefully most of you that are listening to the podcast may probably be listening through headphones. I know a lot of people do this,
I mean, I think
listening.
that we sound phenomenal through headphones.
Well, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So
listen to this track.
I believe we're going to play Spinning Thread.
We are. Absolutely, which is track number 2 off of Intersections.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for listening, and thanks to Evan again, and come back and see us sometimes, guys.
Come visit again, please.
All right.
I was going to make a joke there, and it was not going to be funny.
Oh, what
I'm
was
going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Just going to leave it there.
You tell me off air.
I will.
All
Okay.
right. This is Spinning Thread.
Talk about something new. I'm goddamn desperate. I'm fucking begging you. In a test of recorded afternoons, you've changed to an A for effort beside the city train. Just spinning wheels, spinning thread in my spinning head. Behold a glimpse of the nights you regard. Holding back, there's a panic button to start the heart attack. Knew you for your suggestion, mostly sad instead. Inner monologue congestion, curse it off again. Just spinning wheels, spinning thread in my spinning head. A conversation forced into becoming such a chore. Appearing cold and careless, on me up and out. Since I've been writing books, you've sung the finding. An obligation stitched between careers, but you've been seeming like a stranger. I could try for the sake of trying. You could try to say I'm wrong, or we could fail at the hands of us failing. I rarely bite my tongue for too long. You heard it's better left unspoken. You heard it's better left alone. But what the hell do you know? I know how we get distracted. And I know how you are. A single shot of whiskey, toast the battle scars.